I'm Stacy Stone with the University of Arkansas System, Division of Agriculture, Cooperative Extension Service. Today we're here to show you a little bit about fitting and grooming market goats. Assisting me today will be my daughter Kaylie Stone, who's a 4-H leader in the state of Arkansas, as well as very accomplished showman on the state and national level. When we prepare market goats, generally I'll clip the bodies and do most of that, and she takes care of the tail and the legs and the finer points. She'll be able to straighten that as we go. The key thing to remember is have a clean animal. If the animal's clean, it makes the blade last a whole lot longer on your clippers. Dirt and grit gets in and works like sandpaper back and forth and will dull these blades. Blade cost is about $50 and sharpening them is about $7 or $8 if you can find someone to actually do it well. So it's very important to take care of your blade. So we're starting with the clean animal that's already been washed and we blow dried him. Another thing to remember is to use your offhand to help stretch the hide and keep it tight. That's one of the key things as far as making it look nice. I'll use my left hand to kind of pull the hide and make sure it's good and tight, and that gets me a good uniform cut. I always want to lift the hair, and the goat's hair will go many different directions throughout the places on its body. So if it's laying back, for example down its top, I'm going them to go this way. That way I'm lifting the hair. Up its side, you can see the hair's kind of laying that way. I'll be moving like that. So just when the hair changes direction, you've got to change direction in order to get a good, smooth, uniform cut. Remember, don't get below the hocks on the rear and don't get below the knees on the front. Everything else can pretty well be slicked down, including the head. Sometimes we will use a smaller clipper around the head that makes less noise, and it just makes it a lot easier and nicer on the goats so they don't fight you quite as bad. This goat has only been clipped one time before, so he's not a pro with this. He may do a little jumping and bouncing around, and Kaylie will be helping me out by kind of putting her hand on his nose if necessary to keep him from jumping. You may see him step off the stand. Don't let that alarm you. Sometimes people are right up there, oh, he's gonna hurt himself, and they're pushing on it. And doing that, you're not able to get the hide stretched tightly. So they might step off a time or two, but they learn quickly. They're smart animals. Don't leave them hanging there. If they step off, you pick them up and set them back on quickly. But don't be afraid to let them step off, because after they've been clipped a time or two, they'll stand up there just like a pro. All right, we're ready to begin our clipping. I like to start from the rear. Everybody's got their own system that we do, but I kind of start here at the base of the tail and work forward, and I'll show you how to lift that hair and prepare it. One of the trouble spots that people often have is around the legs. Here on the front legs, I'll start and work my way up this shoulder, and then I will take the front leg and usually bend it up this way, and that'll allow me to stretch and get up underneath the chest floor. And then there's usually a swirl right here in the front of this chest where the hair kind of wants to go 2 or 3 different ways. I'll come back down the front of that as well, just to kind of make sure and open that chest floor up, and it makes the animals look like they have more width to their chest. Occasionally we want to lubricate our clipper blades. They will generate heat from friction as we go, and if we can keep these blades cooler, it helps them with their longevity. As I speak, I turn them off. One of the worst things you can do is let the clippers run in open air. As long as they're in the hair, then there's natural oils in there, and from where you've washed and things, and it helps to kind of keep that hair cool. But just letting them run while you're talking and waving them around will dull clipper blades quickly. So keep them lubricated. You can use WD-40. They make a lot of different products that are made specifically for lubricating them, but any type of light oil like Final Bloom will work as well. Now, before I go back in and start clipping this goat, if I'm getting ready for a show, I don't want the oil and grease to rub off on the goat. So it's good to have a towel just to wipe off the extra that may be accumulated, then you go right back to clipping. Notice too, we've got the towel laying here. This towel does a lot as far as helping make you more comfortable, but sometimes you'll see them chewing and relaxing on that as well. I've even been known to lay the chain sometimes up through here. And if the goat's got something to chew on to kind of occupy itself, it just makes him a little bit calmer when you're clipping, and maybe he won't fight you quite as bad. Another trouble area is inside the rear legs, and this is a difficult area to clip. A lot of times it's a sensitive area for those animals, especially if they're males that hadn't fully healed up from being castrated. I like to pick up one leg and kind of balance him against me, and then I can go right up the inside of that leg. And then switch legs. And sometimes it's where your helper comes in. She'll help balance him over there. There again, I stopped right above the hocks so that she'll have some hair to blend with when she starts in on fitting the legs.
One of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to showing goats is how to properly clip a tail. And today I'm going to show you how to do that. One of the most things to remember when you're doing this is you want to make sure that you don't leave a pom-pom on the end of the goat's tail. It can kind of take away from your goat whenever the judge is getting ready to evaluate it. So to get a good shape of the tail, we want to take down the back side of it and the front and the sides. And we'll save how much length we take off at the last part. That way you can kind of look from the side how much you think it wants to be off. So you don't want to take it off right at the base, because right here is the end of his tail. We don't want to take it off that much, because then this tail won't be very long. So you kind of have to eyeball it, and the best way, what I would do if you're a beginner and you're starting out, I would look online at some of the champions that have been winning and see how they have been clipping their goats. That's always a good reference for you to look back on. Today we are using, these are Andy's 5-speed clippers, and I'm using a medium blending blade, and this blade is going to clip a little bit shorter than the cover coats that we just seen, but that's okay for the tail because you're not really going to be able to tell a big difference in the size. So we are going to start right here, and we're just going to go up the back, and I'm just holding my finger at the end of the tail. We'll go and do the top next. And with the goat on the tail, especially if you're using a blade that's a little bit smaller, we want to go against it, opposite of what we were doing earlier. That way it'll help blend it into the hair that's a little bit longer. And then I'm going to go right up the side and go all the way against we're going right up against the base of the tail. And I'm not pressing down just super firm on this because we don't want to get it too close. And if the goat was to move its tail real fast, you don't want to make a big indentation. So I'm just going to go right across the top right here. And then you can kind of stop, and you would almost hold the goat's tail up like you would if it was holding its tail up into the ring. So with this goat, I'm going to trim his tail just a little bit on the end just to kind of make it more smooth where it's not as much broken off hair. So as you can see here, the tail is not real bushy at the end. It's just real nice and smooth. It's not too fine. We didn't take it off at the end. We left a little bit. So his tail looks real natural and it looks good and uniform to the rest of his body. One of the most popular trends in the goat industry today is fitting the livestock for show. It's really important before you go to a show that you check and see what their fitting guidelines are. Some shows do not allow for you to use adhesive in goat legs. They like to show them more natural. So make sure you check with the show superintendent before you go to the show. So what fitting is we're going to use an adhesive and we're going to pull up the goat's leg hair and it'll make them look bigger boned. This has been used in cattle for years, but it is just now getting where it's really popular in the goats. This is a tail adhesive and it is one of the heavier adhesives that you can use. So if you're a beginner, I would probably recommend using a light to medium adhesive until you get the hang of it. So we will take our comb and we will just lightly spray the goat's leg hair and comb it up. We'll get more in depth with this as we continue. Also we have Powderful, and this is used to build the leg hair. It's like a spray baby powder. So we will use this after we use our adhesive, and it's just gonna make the legs get bigger with still making them look natural. You saw this earlier in our video. It's a final bloom. It's just an oil. We use this on our clipper blades because with the adhesive, it is like a super strong hairspray, so it can kind of clog up the clipper blades and make them run more difficult. So we use this to kind of break off the adhesive off the clippers. This is a breakdown remover. It is very important that if you use a adhesive at a show that you break down your fitted legs properly. Because if you leave it in there, it'll harm the goat's leg hair and it's just not good. So make sure that you use, like this is Hair Savior. They make several different ones. I would go to like a show supply trailer or your local farm store and ask them what they have in stock, because there's several different things that you can use. These are our Andes 5-speed clippers that you saw earlier in the video, except for these are X-block blades. There also could be super blocking blades, and the only big difference in these is that these are super sharp. You have to be very careful because these can cut you if you're not careful. There's not much of a guide on these. They're right close to the point. That way when we're clipping the super hard legs, it'll just slide through it super easy. This is our fluffer comb. This is what we use when we're fitting the legs. It's just a skip tooth. Make sure that it's got the longer teeth so you're able to go through the hair more easily. And this is just a wool card. I like to use it if you kind of get too much glue on your legs, or if you're getting ready to what we call the fin on the leg. This helps smooth it out and pull the hair out and make it look natural. The biggest key in fitting legs is that you want to make sure that you keep them looking as natural as possible, and you want to make it look smooth. So when you first get to your goat's leg, you just want to comb the hair up with their fluffer comb just to kind of get a feel for the hair and see and make sure that it's good and clean. This goat's legs were washed and dried, so they're good and clean for us to do. So you're going to take your tail adhesive, and you're not going to get too close to it. You're going to get about 8 to 12 inches away, and you're just going to lightly spray. Like I said earlier, you're going to want to comb a lot and spray a little. So I'm taking this part of the hair from this part right here over, and I'm just going to kind of do it at a 45. So once I get that hair standing up a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and move to the front. And once I get to the front, I'm going to kind of comb it straight up. As you can see now, the hair is just barely starting to come up. I don't want to get it gummy or sticky. So when I get ready to do the back, I'm going to get this part right here. I'm going to go straight back with it, and I'm going to go this part straight back here. So this is what we call the fin, is when you're going straight back and you're kind of making like a fin-like motion. So this is a good time when I would use my wool card. I'm just going to spray on the back, and you can pull it back, and that's just going to make that line super straight, and it's going to pull it out and make it even. And if you need to, if you got some hair that's kind of hard to pull up at the base of the foot, it can be used for that too. Because these little wire brushes makes it really easy to get the hair up, those little fine hairs that don't want to come up quite as easy. So you kind of want your hair going this way and this way, but you don't want an obvious line right there. You want to make sure that you comb it straight up so you don't want to leave any lines in it. So next I'll go in and I'll use my powderful. You want to shake it up good because sometimes the powder will set at the bottom. And you don't want to spray too much where you can tell that it's starting to look clumpy. But then you also notice it'll start making the legs look wider and it'll start making them look bigger. And if you have some areas where you want the hair to be bigger at, you can always go in and spray a little bit more tail adhesive. Like in this back fin right here, I want it to be a little bit thicker. So I'm gonna spray tail adhesive and I'm gonna follow it up back with some more powderful. And it'll start making it where you can't see through it quite as much. And it's always good to just kind of go in real smooth and easy. You don't want to go in and just take a whole lot off right off the bat. So there's also, as you can see, there's already kind of a natural turn to the goat's back legs. And in fitting, you can also kind of fit out some of their structural problems. Like if they have too much set to their hocks, you can kind of change that. But for today, just for, like if you're a beginner just starting out, we're just gonna barely take off hair right here, starting down. I'll have to start on the front side. You just want it to look real smooth. That's your end goal, is you want it to, all the hair to look nice and smooth. So if you're a beginner and you were just started off fitting your goats, I would do kind of like I'm doing today. You don't want to take too much off because it's going to be really, really hard to grow it back. So if you're unsure about yourself, I would just take off as little as possible, kind of like we're doing today. This goat, he hasn't been to a show yet, and he doesn't have just a whole ton of leg hair, so we don't want to take off too much. And you see these long hairs at the base of the foot. We'll go ahead and take those off. It'll just make it look a lot cleaner and nicer. So right here we still have some long hair on the inside of the hock. We want to go ahead and take it down. And this is a part that's more difficult. Some of the goats don't like it when you get this close to them. So I like to just kind of run it close to them to make sure they're kind of used to it. Just gonna smooth it up. So ideally for more advanced or a bigger show later in the year, I would take this hair down more, but just for a beginner's fitting lesson and this being early in the year, I don't want to take down too much, like I said, because it's hard to get the goat's leg hair to come back. And especially on this part right here, you don't want to leave that sharp. You want to make sure that you make it look smooth and blend everything in. Like earlier how we left some hair around the edge of the hock so we can always blend it in with the legs. It's best to always give yourself plenty of time before you're getting ready to show your goats to make sure you have plenty of time to get the leg looking like you want it to be. This is something that cannot be done last minute. If you are a beginner and this is your first time to really do this, I would practice at your house before you go to a show and time yourself and see how long it'll take you. That way you can give yourself that much time when it gets ready to come to a show. It normally takes us about 20 to 30 minutes to get a goat ready, and that's with me and one or two others helping. So it's good just not to be rushed when you're doing this, because you don't want to take your goat to the ring with it only being half fit. And after you get done fitting your goat, you want to keep them out of the shavings and dirt. You want to best to keep them on the stand, or you can keep them on the ground. But you don't want to lay them back down in the shavings, because the shavings and dirt will all stick to this, and it'll ruin your hard work that you've been building up on. Now that we have our goat's legs fit, it's important to remember that good goat hair starts at home. You want to make sure that you have a good daily hair care routine, and Since if you are a beginner, you don't necessarily have to wash your goat's legs every day at home. It's more important that you keep the leg hair clean, that way it can grow. I wouldn't really wash the goat every day. You never want to wash the goat's body except for when you're getting ready for show. It's good to keep the natural oils in the goat's hair. It'll keep the goat's hair feeling good for the show. And if you keep a lot of moisture in the goat's body hair, it can start up fungus. For his daily hair care, I like to use just a good shampoo. It can be a human shampoo or an animal shampoo. You can pretty much just use anything just to make sure that the leg hair is kept clean. So you want to start off by washing the goat's legs and then adding your shampoo, scrubbing, and washing again. Then after that, you want to go ahead and you can use a conditioner if you'd like. It just kind of depends what you want to do. You can use a conditioner or you can use a sheen like this. This is called Double Dip. They make lots of different ones like Clean Sheen. It's just basically that's kind of like a leave-in conditioner. You can apply the sheen when it's wet or dry. Just kind of depends on if you think your goat's legs are a little bit drier. I like to do it after the goat's legs are dry, so that way the goat's hair will get more of those oils in its hair. And when you are done drying the goat's leg hair, I like to use a comb, but you don't want to use a metal comb like we used earlier. You can use just a plastic Scotch comb or a comb kind of like this, and you're gonna almost mimic the same movements that I did when I was fitting with this brush. That way you can get the hair trained to go in the same places. If you are going to a lot of jackpot shows or you start to see fungus pop up on your goats, you need to use some type of fungus treatment. And there's two I have here with me today. And this is a Fighting 5 that Sullivan's makes. And it's used just for spot treatment, or if you get ready to leave a show, you can go ahead and just spray it down as a preventative. And I also like the ring out kind. This is a concentrate, so you'll actually just pour this whole bottle in another bottle and go ahead and just mist it down. If you think you have a fungus problem, I like to treat it every day just so you can kind of stay on top of it, because it shows if you have a ringworm or a fungus, you cannot show them. So that would be something that we would not be looking forward to, because all your hard work would just kind of be crushed after you get a ring out or a fungus problem.